Hello and welcome back to The Movies Made Us Do It. Me and Matt are back. How are you, Matt?
I'm pretty good, sir. How are you?
I am very, very well. I've started using wireless headphones.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why I didn't do this before. It's so freeing. Like I think I've had it in my head where I'm like, no. I always used like studio headphones when we
Yeah.
did radio, and I've like kept doing that. And then all of a sudden I was like, I've got these wireless, in-ear buds they work really well for music when I'm using my phone. And I'm like, maybe I should just use that. And it's so nice not having a wire in front of you or being restricted by wire.
You
You
put a
know?
vision of you in big 70s headphones now.
Yeah, well, that was kind of the thing, right? I mean, not quite 70s in style, but 70s in size.
Yeah.
Um, and it used to be a
Massive.
problem in the summer because you get the hot air, which is a nightmare.
Oh, sweaty air. Oh,
Yeah. Anyway, today we are discussing The Man Who Would Be King, uh, directed by John Huston, starring Sean Connery, Michael Caine, and Christopher Plummer. What a fucking cast!
yeah. Wonderful cast.
When did you first see it?
I think when I was a kid on
Hmm.
TV.
I feel like the same,
Yeah.
actually. I
And I
have
think it
those
was one of the.
vague memories, of like those
Yeah.
vague childhood memories. And then I think I rewatched it later in life, maybe late 90s, early 2000s, something like that.
Mhm.
But,
Yeah. It's one of those movies that I watch every now and again. Not too much because I don't want to
hmm
sort of ruin it. But it's one of those movies I watch every now and again. And
yeah.
it's. I think it's one of those movies that sort of kicked off my love for sort of Victorian period and
Which
Victorian
is one of
soldiers.
your, like, favorite things. So
It is.
it,
Yeah.
it did kick off something of an obsession there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
Yeah. And
yeah.
I love, it's got just wonderful music in it. It's got wonderful
Mm.
performances,
Some
as
great cinematography as well. Some of the
yeah,
shots are
beautiful.
incredible.
I mean, it is John Huston, but
Well,
you always,
yeah, of course. But there are just certain shots you're like, wow, that's
yeah.
amazing.
I mean,
Um,
some of the crowd shots and the shots of the mountains and things are just absolutely stunning.
and one of the shots early on, which we'll get to very shortly, uh, the shot on the train.
Yeah,
It's like, wow, you timed that really well. Like, how many
yeah,
times did you retake that on a train to get that right?
yeah.
Um, yeah, very, very good.
And it's just
Um,
got this amazing performance by that genuine friendship performance with Kane and Connery.
and it really fucking shows. Like
Yeah,
their chemistry in this is undeniable. It's wonderful.
yeah, yeah. They were
Um,
they were friends in real life, so it was just
yeah, and
I think
I think it
just joy for
shows.
them both to work. Yeah, and you
Um,
and you know the story of how they met.
no,
So back in the 60s, um, he said he Kane said he went to a party. He said, and in those days you had to bring a bird and a bottle, and he said he didn't have enough money for a bottle.
that definitely dates this.
Yeah, exactly. He said he didn't have
Yeah.
enough. He didn't have enough money for a bottle, so he bought two birds instead. And he
hmm
said, and when he walked in, Sean Connery was there, stood on his own, and they became the best of friends ever since.
That's a great story.
It is,
Oh
and
dear.
that was one of the reasons why I love Kane so much. Not only is he he's a fantastic actor. He's one of my favorite actors, if not
Mm.
my favorite actor. And he's just listening to his stories. I mean, they're
He
just
he is
wonderful.
like whenever there's a talk show and he's on it, you're like, yes. I am.
Yeah,
I rarely listen to talk shows, but if totally.
yeah,
If Michael
and
Caine's on there, I'm listening.
YouTube's got they've got loads of them on there, so you just like look them up. But
Oh
there's
yeah.
just wonderful, stories. And the how he got the part is another story that he likes to tell, which is he was on a sort of second honeymoon
Mm.
with his wife in Paris, and he said he got a phone call in the morning, and oh, I said, hello, it's John Huston, and he was like, yeah, all right. I think one of his mates pissing about.
Yeah.
Stop
I
mucking
imagine
about.
that happens a lot
Yeah,
there.
and he said, no, no, no. He said, it's John Huston. He says, I want to talk to you about doing a movie. And he's like, okay.
Hmm.
He said, when do you want to talk about it? And he says, well, how about now? I'm next door in the bar. So
That yeah.
so he literally went out and spoke to him, and the he said that he loved, he's always loved Houston because his favorite movies are The Maltese Falcon and The Treasure of the Sierra Madre.
Mm-hmm.
And he said his hero, of course, was Bogart. And
Yeah.
he said, well, I've got this part. He said, I've got this part for you. And originally, he says, I've been trying to do this since the 50s, this movie. And he said,
Right.
originally it was going to be Clark Gable and Humphrey Bogart. And he said, which part was going to be mine? And he said, Humphrey Bogart's. And he said, I'll do it. I don't need to
Yeah.
know anything else.
Sight unseen. I'm
Yeah,
in.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, I'll do it. And he went
Amazing.
through, apparently, he went through a number of, iterations trying to get it. In the 60s, he tried Burt Lancaster and Kirk Douglas. And then I think he was thinking about Burton and
That
O'Toole for a bit.
that would have been a really good. I mean, both of those would have been very interesting
Yeah.
movies. You know.
Well, his last one was Robert Redford and Paul Newman.
And again,
And
I could see that too. Actually.
yeah, but Paul Newman said, I think you really should have two British actors to do it.
Yeah.
So why didn't you go for, Kane and Connery?
Mm.
And he's like, well, that's a really good idea. So that's what he did.
Yeah. I'll go find out where they're drinking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'll find out where they are.
Yeah. Well, let's get into it, shall we?
Yeah.
And I really love the opening of this movie. Obviously we're in 1880s India.
Yeah.
And you see the merchants, and you see the market stalls.
Yeah.
I think you see a blacksmith. You see
There's a blacksmith. Some blacksmiths, pounding some steel and stuff. And what I love
snake
is
charmers and
yeah,
yeah.
that's what I love is it kind of sets the scene, and it sets the sort of, this is a place where weirdness and superstition
Yes.
can happen, because you've got the guy like putting scorpions in his mouth, and there's a guy
fuck that noise.
Yeah, there's a guy with cobras, and there's even a little girl or a little boy holding two little baby cobras to his face.
Yeah.
Face.
I mean, I must admit, if I walked past a kid doing that, I'd be like, yeah, you deserve some money for that. That's pretty impressive.
You've even got the guy sort of drinking supposedly boiling water out of a kettle.
Yes, yeah.
And washing his face in it, and that sort of thing. So it sort of already sets up this sort of idea that almost everything, all human life is here. You can get everything, and there is everything here, including the weirdness and the superstitious stuff.
Yeah, it's a great introduction, and it does, like you said, it really sets the scene, for where the majority of the movie is going to take place.
And you get the wonderful score by Maurice Jarre.
Wonderful. Yeah, it's really
Maurice,
good.
Who'd previously done like Lawrence of Arabia and stuff like that.
Mm.
And also the father of Jean-Michel Jarre.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. And I quite like, over the years, I think I've said this on previous reviews, but over the years, I have become a fan of the classy white on black text title sequences. Yeah. They're timeless, like there's just something about them. They're absolutely timeless. Yeah, I kind of love that. So we then cut to evening, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
And we're doing an almost Tarantino-esque at the end, of the movie. We're starting at the end. And we've got the chap from the correspondent, haven't we? Who's
Morning Star.
Right. The
Evening
what? Sorry, Evening Star. Yeah, that's right. I couldn't remember what it was. But he's writing when
Northern Star.
The Northern Star. That's the one. When in comes an almost unrecognizable Michael Caine. Who is all kinds of fucked up.
He's twisted and broken
and mad.
Completely
quite mad.
His face is all scarred. His hands are barely working.
And you get the feeling that the correspondent doesn't even recognize him at first.
No,
he's just like, who are you? And he says, like, don't you know me? And he says, no, I don't. I'm like, sorry, sir, I don't know you. Who are you? And he's like, what can I do for you?
He says, you get me a drink.
Yeah.
And he calls him Brother Kipling.
And they did such a good job with this that I feel like, were it not for the obvious voice of Michael Caine,
Yeah,
I might have been like, who is this?
yeah,
Like he really doesn't look like Michael Caine at all.
no,
Um, it's a great scene though, because you are just like, I need to hear this story. How did you end up here? Immediately, I am
yeah, it's
hooked. How have
wonderful.
you ended up here?
And he says, this is where this is where he started. He says, don't you
Yes.
remember? He says, I was stood over there, you were
Mm,
stood there, Danny was stood over there, and this is where he
yeah.
signed up the contract.
Yep. Yeah.
And then, of course, then he says, and then he realizes, good God, he's like Carnahan.
Mm, yeah. It's such a wonderful scene, and of course, Christopher Plummer and Michael Caine just, you know,
Yeah,
acting their asses off.
I think they'd worked previously on I think a stage production of Hamlet. I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
So they knew each other.
So we cut back. I think it's like 3 years or something, isn't it?
Yeah, 3 years
And
ago he was.
we see Michael Caine at a train station. And he pickpockets the correspondent.
Yeah, and I
Of
love
his
the
pocket watch.
how they show it as well. They show it through the
It's
grill
it's through
in,
through the
in
tail.
the
Yeah,
yeah.
through the reception, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, you can just see his hand come round and just yank the
Mm.
watch chain and it out. And
Well,
I
of
love
course
he's there looking really pleased with himself. And he's looking at the watch, and
until he
he runs.
recognizes the logo. Yeah.
Yeah, he runs his hand along the chain until he gets to the fob, and it's
The
the old
Mason's sign.
yeah, the Mason iron ruler
Hmm.
sign, and
And
he's
he
like,
immediately is like, bollocks.
blah, yeah, blah,
So now he's got this issue where obviously it's a fellow Mason. He wants to give this watch back, but he obviously doesn't want to be like, "Hey, I stole
yeah.
your watch.
It
Sorry,
doesn't. Yeah,
buddy."
you can't just sort of give it over and say, "Oh, by the way, I just found this."
Yeah. So he finds him in a carriage reading a paper, and he kind of sits
Yeah,
there, next to him, or not next
yeah.
to him, opposite him.
Across it from him. Yeah,
Yeah. Um, and he's just trying to work out a way of trying to get this watch back
yeah,
onto this correspondent without him noticing. And I love the scene where he's like fallen asleep, or he starts falling asleep,
hmm
and he walks over to put it into him, but then of course the train stops suddenly or hits a bump, and
yeah.
so Kane falls into him, and he wakes up, and he's just like, "Oh, sorry, can I borrow your newspaper?" And he kind of like quickly grabs the newspaper and sits back down. And it's like, that's a really smooth move.
he
Really
says
good.
something. He says something like, being on this train's like getting kicked all along by a mule or something."
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And then you get the chap coming on with it's like a watermelon or
It's a
something.
melon, yeah. Guy comes
Yeah,
on
and
with a melon,
and
and he's really rude to him. He's horrible to him.
he is. I mean, in fairness, well, I guess period of time, and it's fucking hot on a train in the middle of
Yeah,
India. But I wouldn't be too happy if someone came in and started spitting fucking watermelon seeds
melon
all over the
seeds
floor.
all over the floor.
I
Yeah,
would be like, dude, could you not? you know?
yeah,
Um, and he looks so fucking pleased with himself as well eating this bloody watermelon.
yeah,
Um, but yes. So this, and again, I think this is so wonderfully well shot. He ends up kicking him out of the fucking train,
yeah.
and the correspondent's like, "You could have killed him. That's crazy. Like, what? Why would you do that?" He's like, "Good God, Matt! Like, you could have killed the chap." And he's like, "Well, serves him right, you know. He's because he stole your watch. He was pickpocketing your watch." Um, and of course the correspondent looks really confused. He's like, "My watch," and he's like, "Oh yeah, that is my watch." Um, and so for a moment you think, "Oh wow, he's been fooled by this," you know.
Yeah.
He's been fooled, and he
Well, he
introduces
says
himself,
yeah, and he says
former gunnery sergeant, right?
yeah. Well, he says the sort of what I presume is like their code word, isn't it? And it's like traveling from the east and stuff, and in the service of the widow or this widow's son. And of
Yes.
course, he has the reply, and of course
Mm.
they know. He says, "What lodge are you from?" And he says, "Oh, it's the traveling lodge of whatever regiment it is that they're part of."
Yes.
And I like it. He says, they're talking about India, and he says, "Oh," he says, "You're not a bureaucrat." He says, "India would have been better if it wasn't for the bureaucrats and stuff." He says, "You're not a
Yeah.
bureaucrat, are you?" He says, "No." He says, "I'm a journalist." He says, "It's good." He says, "Because they've all got small chests and long noses to look down on you with." He said,
Yeah.
"No,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
none of them's ever looked. None of them, not one of them's offered me a drink either." He takes his drink from him, and he says, "Is it 12-year-old something Scotch?" And he says, "Ah," he says, "You're a educated man of
Educated
whiskey."
taste in whiskey. Yeah.
Yeah, and he
Yeah.
says, I've an educated taste in whiskey, women, waistcoats, and bills of fare."
Mm.
Which is what a wonderful line that is.
And then
Just
he goes on
wonderful.
to complain that he hasn't had much time to drink whiskey lately because they keep making up these new fucking laws and like
Yeah,
just the government keep making up these laws and then who suffers? The Englishman.
yeah. You're working class Englishman basically is what it leads to. Is
Yes. Yeah.
you can't make a name for yourself if there's all these rules to stop you.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And
And
he
then he
says to
says,
him,
"Oh, could you help me? Because I need to get a message to a man at
yeah,
Marwar Junction."
Morwell
Yeah.
Junction.
Yeah.
He says to him, he says, I'm passing this. He says, "Oh, are you coming back this way?" He said, he says, "Yeah, in 10 days." And he says, "Well, could you make it 8?" And that's how he
Mm.
says to him about the on the square, isn't it? That's what he comes across. He talks about that,
Yeah.
and he says he'll do it. And he describes Dravert as a guy who's going to be in. He said you'll find him in the first class cabin, surrounded by all his luggage. He says, "It's a great tall bloke with grey sideburns." He says, "You can't miss him. Just say Peachy's gone south for the week."
Uh-huh. Yeah.
He's like, "Yeah," and I love it. He gets it because now he's like, I'm just going to go off before we reach the station, and I love it.
Yeah.
He climbs out and he says, Brother Peachy," he says, sorry, Brother Garnan," he says, "I lost my watch before we got to the train."
In the station. He's like,
Yeah,
I lost my watch in the station. He's like, well, how was I meant to know you were a Mason?
yeah.
Oh, so good.
It's just, and what I love about that whole scene is it sets up, you know, how dodgy they are and how
And how
what sort of
smart they
rules
are.
they yeah, and how what rules they set for themselves. They're dodgy,
Mm.
but they're not too dodgy, sort of thing. They're not.
Well,
They've got
and they have loyalty within the Masons for sure.
yeah,
You know.
exactly. Yeah,
Um
and I just love I'm not, they're not. He's not going to get off it. That he's going to get off the train before it gets to the station. Just lovely little things like that. It's just wonderful.
yeah. Um and we then get our first introduction to Connery's character. Who is as Peachy says, he is sat in a carriage on his own, grey sideburns.
Yeah,
Immediately complains about. He's
yeah,
like, "Oh
because
bloody hell, tickets again!"
yeah,
like because he obviously keeps getting asked for tickets. And so he gives him the line. He says, "Oh, Peachy's gone south," and
well, I
uh,
like it because he looks at him because he didn't say I was going to bloody pay you for this, did he? He says because I'm not. I'm not going to give you
yeah,
anything. And he says
yeah,
no,
and he
no, no. He
says,
says,
"Oh,
"Nothing like
why
that."
did you do it then?" And he said, "Oh, for
Yeah,
the sake of a widow's son," which obviously again is the line.
yeah. And
Um,
immediately his whole demeanor changes, and he puts his hand out, and shakes his hand. And then I love it. He proceeds to tell him what now. He says, "Oh," he says, "he's gone south." You say? He says, "Well, right." He says, "That'll be what such and such a place." And he says,
yeah,
"What is it you're going to do?" He says, "Oh, we're going to go and basically blackmail
blackmail. Yeah,
the Raja for what he did to his mother-in-law or something."
yeah,
And
and he says, "Oh,
it's
they'll
like,
almost certainly poison you if you try doing
yeah.
that."
He says they'll slit your throats or they'll poison you. He says,
Yeah,
"Oh well." He says it's been tried before, but me and Brother Carnahan don't die so easily.
Yeah,
And
and
he's
he's
like,
like, "How are you going to put the screw to him? Like, how are you going to do this?" And he's like, "Oh,
and
we're
he's
going to pretend to be correspondents for the Northern Star." And he's
yeah,
like, "You
he's like,
can't do
you
that
can't
because I'm
do
the correspondent for the Northern Star."
that. Yeah, and of course the train's pulling out,
It's
so he
just
can't hear.
falling
He's
out.
like,
Yeah,
what? He says, I'm the Northern Star. You can see he's so completely outraged. He says, I am. He says, I can't hear you, sort of thing.
so good, so good. Um, so so yeah, we cut to a little time later, and the correspondent is now kind of pleading his case
So,
for
well,
these
he's
two
the one.
men.
He dobbed them in, and
He
his
dobbed them in, but he doesn't want anything to happen to them either.
yeah, because
Yeah.
his point is that he dobbed them in because he wanted that he thinks they'll die. He's
Yes,
basically saving their lives because he thinks
he is.
they're gonna.
He is correct.
Yeah. Well, he's not. They're not, because you find out later that they did go back and they did put the screws on the Raja.
Didn't go well though in the long run.
No, it did. It does, because that's how they pay for the rifles.
Yes, which then leads to.
Oh, yeah, but at that point, they were fine with
Yeah, sure.
that.
It's gone fine
It
up
doesn't
to that point.
Yeah,
Yes.
it doesn't go wrong until later.
Yeah. Yeah. Um. You know, and then the chap argues. He's like, well, you know, they should have left all of this shit back in England. They shouldn't have come over here to try this nonsense on.
Yeah, he says when
Um.
their service was over, they should have gone back to England.
Yeah.
And I love the way they march in. They march
Oh, it's
in,
so good. It's so
hats
good.
off. Yeah, and he says, "I've got that." He says to him, "I've got your records before me, and it's got everything from smuggling, larceny, receiving stolen goods." And it's like, yeah, you should definitely have got it. And he says, "Was it? Was it?" He says, I think he says it's the detriments to the empire and the That's right. He says your detriments to the empire and the Izats of the Raj,
Mm.
and Peachy's absolutely aghast. Says detriments. He calls us detriments. Well, I'll remind you that it was detriments like us that built the bloody empire and the Izats of the Raj.
Yeah. And he
And he's
says, like, he says, you boys are not going to jail, but you richly deserve to. You know,
yeah,
it's like you absolutely should be in jail.
and he says to him, you know, you're not going to, he says about you know, they were going to do this blackmailing and stuff, and he says, oh, what, because you know, what is it basically going to stop? How are you going to stop him this getting
Mm.
into the paper? And he says, well, because what we'll do is we'll
Tell
tell
the
the editor
editor.
about his wife and what his wife gets up to with one of the civil servants here, and you can see the guy like swallows, and Kipling is like laughing into his hand, sort of thing, and completely amused by the whole situation. And I love it.
Yeah.
He says if he it was let him put that in his paper if he has need of news. Again, the dialogue is so wonderful. They're just so
It's
brilliant.
really, really well written. Yeah.
And yeah, hats on, off they go.
Yeah. March back out the way they came.
And I love it. You know, Kipling's there laughing to himself, and the guy says to him, "This isn't going to go into the news. The news, is it?" And he turns on. He says, "What?" He says, "Not going in the paper, is it?" He goes, "Oh, no, 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 no."
And of course, later that day, they go to visit him at his office.
Well, you get that. No, you get that. Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I think
yeah,
that's what they do next.
yeah.
And he's like, "My God, you two!"
To again. Yeah,
It's like, what the fuck do you want now? I've just
yeah,
got you out of all this trouble. And of course, they immediately like, "Oh, we need another favor." um, and he says, like, I think he says something like, "Oh, you know, we wouldn't dare take advantage of another man of the craft. We're not after your money,
yeah.
you know, we just have." So you know, we just need some
Yeah,
help.
he says you want some. Was it? He says we'll take some of your cigars and some of your drink. He says,
Yeah,
and then we'll look at some of your books and your maps, and we'll set up a contract, and you can witness it. Basically, is what they do.
yeah,
And I love that. Again, you get this wonderful scene where Danny grabs cigars from the box, and he gives it one over to to Carnahan, and they do that wonderful in sync, putting it in their mouths, and
Yes.
they strike the matches together, and then they light each other's cigar. It's wonderful. It's just it immediately shows you how in sync they are, and how you know
Yes.
how set up they are. Almost, as I think Sean Connery said in interviews, they're almost like one person. And he says he's of the opinion that it all goes wrong for them when they stop being one person.
Sure. Yeah. That kind of works actually.
Yeah.
Because the whole time they're completely on the same page. They
Hmm.
are pretty much untouchable.
Yeah.
Even when one of them goes snowblind, for example,
Yeah.
they as a pair they get through it. But yeah, so they're here to get this contract written up and signed.
Yeah. And
Peachy
I love it.
explains what they're planning to do.
Yeah. He says that basically India's got too small for them, and they're not little
Yeah.
men, and they're going to go to a new kingdom. They're going to go to Kafiristan, and they're going to basically become kings there and rob the place blind.
I love when he's like, you do fucking realize you've got to walk through Afghanistan to get there, right?
Yeah,
He's like, you
got,
will
got
get
the kind of
beheaded.
pass to get through there. And they know that
Well,
they're
they
heroes.
fought there, right? So
Yeah, they fought there. They got medals for
yeah,
And I think that he says Danny says at one point when they were in the office with the minister or whatever he is, and he says about how they were there when the Afghans came screaming down the mountains, and they took over when all the officers had copped it.
mm,
So they're clearly they are brave men. They've done
mm.
they have actually done their duty. They're not cowards by any or anything like that.
And we do get some good setup here where Plummer says, no white man has been up there since Alexander the Great of Greece.
Yeah.
And I love when Peach is like, Alexander who?
Yeah, it's Alexander the Great. And he's like, oh, okay, and I love that Danny's thing is, well, if a Greek can do it, an Englishman can do it.
Yeah. And so they pull out the contract anyway. They're
Yeah.
determined to do this against better advice, and
Mm.
they pull out the contract, and it basically says, look, neither of us are gonna sleep with a woman. We're not gonna drink alcohol until we achieve this task. Until we're seated as kings of our own bloody land. We're gonna,
And I like
and they drink the
and I
last
like
of the alcohol.
yeah, he says about the alcohol bit, and Danny looks at him and takes that last drink.
Immediately takes the last shot.
Like,
Yeah.
and I like it. He explains about how you know he does a brief explanation of Alexander and what he did there, and how he took
Yes.
a wife called Roxanne. So he gives them enough information that they
Enough
can
foreshadowing. Yeah.
and I like it. He says to him, he says to Kipling, he says, "Oh, you can go to bed now." He goes, "We're not going to steal anything, not from you anyway."
Not from a mason, no.
Yeah. So off he goes off, and they pull over the maps and things. And Kafiri Stan's a real place, or it was a real place.
Yeah.
And apparently the inhabitants of it are very almost white. They don't look
Right.
like their neighbors. They have a distinct look from the rest of the Afghans that are around them. I think it's part of Pakistan now, I think.
Right. My geography is terrible, so
My geography's not great of that area, but
yeah,
my geography's not great of that area, but I think it's part of Pakistan now.
yeah. And as they pour over the maps, they go through the kind of terrain they're dealing with, the mountainous terrain, and it's like 10,000 square miles or something of like mountainous
treacherous
terrain.
Mountains and bad conditions and he says that I think Kipling says that a party of geographers went up there at one point and have never been heard of since.
Oh yeah, they said the last. Yeah, that's what he says. He says the last white people to go up there were these cartographers.
Yeah,
who never came back, and they were the first people since Alexander the Great that were white in that region.
and he says that since then the place is supposed to be off out of bounds for English,
Yes.
but the
Uh-huh.
basically the empire has ruled that no one should go up there. So that, that's already illegal. They're going to be doing illegal stuff again.
Mm. Yeah. So I guess it's the following day or sometime later we see Kipling trying to travel
Yeah.
through town, right?
Hmm.
And he's stopped by this bloke who's just like, "Oh, I think these people are here to try and take you to a place of ill repute, and they're gonna murder you." And he's like begging with him, but then of course he sees Peachy, and he's like, "Oh, I'll catch up with you. I'll see you later."
Yeah.
Um, and he heads off to follow Peachy, I guess out of pure curiosity, if nothing else.
Yeah.
Um, and uh, and we see he's like, uh,
Well,
he gives.
they're dressed as natives, aren't they?
They're dressed as natives, and Connery specifically is dressed as like a crazy man.
Yeah, he's
Um,
dressed as a holy sort of prophet sort of
yeah,
guy. He's
yeah.
got his own language. He's made his own language
But
up, which
that's the thing. He's not like just a holy prophet. They make it clear that he is pretending to be someone mental. Like
yeah, he's
he's
nuts.
talking in tongues and like he's properly like out there.
Yeah,
And I think at one point Peachy says that he speaks in his own tongues and then basically Peachy makes up whatever the fuck he wants to say.
yeah,
He's like, well, I'll interpret him however I choose.
yeah.
Um,
And you do get the impression that it's Peachy that's the brains. Peachy definitely comes up with
yes,
most of the schemes.
you certainly see that later with the way they act during the one of the battles for sure.
Yeah,
You can see who is the more strategic of
level
the two, I guess.
level-headed one. I guess
Yeah,
is the yeah.
yeah.
And I
Um,
love there's that bit where Drava is explaining that oh he says I get I do this wonderful thing I can I roll my eyes and I spit and I drink he says here I'll show you he says oh no I don't need to see it and I love the look that Connery gives him it's such a look of like you bastard I really wanted to show you
yeah,
my
yeah. I'm
really
really
good
proud.
my really good mad guy he's just really affronted by him not wanting to see it.
Yeah, but what he will see is Peachy shows him that they've got like I don't know, is it like 40 martinis or something
Yeah,
rifles?
4 martinis, and that's how he says that's how they got him. They went back to they went back to
Yeah,
the
that's how
guy
they
at
got the
Old
money
David.
for the
Yeah,
rifles. Yeah.
they went back to him. He said, "What? You went back after all that happened?" He went, "Yeah, of course we did. How else were we going to get the money?"
Well, you get the impression they have pretty much always come out on top in every exchange, right?
Yeah,
They've
most
managed since the time of the war. They've done pretty well for themselves, you know.
yeah. He,
Um,
I think they feel like that they've got that sort of it's that Del Boy thing, isn't it? It's that
yes,
they never quite got rich. They always got their
no,
schemes
yeah,
and they've always got their plans and stuff and they sort of they stumble along but they never
but they've come
quite
out unscathed, like
yeah
they've escaped. They haven't made their fortune yet, but this is their
yeah
big shot, right?
yeah
Um, and before they leave, of course, they get given the uh the Masons symbol from the fob
yeah
which
he
he gives
gives
it
him
to him.
the symbol off his watch
Yeah.
and I love how again it's just pure expression of Connery just the smile he gives him and
Yes.
the way he clutches that symbol like it's it's that it's a this is it. This is what he needs to. It's that extra boost for him. He's completely. Oh, everything's going to be fine now. It's wonderful.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Holding this symbol, nothing could possibly go wrong.
Yeah,
Um. So they begin to make their journey, and of course they get to this pass where they have to get around these guards, obviously, and they recognize the guard as well, don't they? That's the thing.
yeah.
Um.
Was it a big mouth Mick from County something or other?
Yeah, but what I love is Danny starts imitating
This
the
is
commander.
his officer. Yeah,
Yeah, and he basically gets him to march on the spot while they sneak past.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the officer comes out and he's like, "Oh, the man's bloody drunk again."
He's like, yeah, go open up the watch. He says, he's bloody drunk again. Put this man in irons.
So
Poor
good.
bastard.
Yeah, and then we see on their travels they discuss how they how they traveled with the people by pretending to be this mad
Yeah,
witch
giving out
doctor guy and giving out
fortunes and things and
yeah
dancing and
performance.
yeah. And
Um,
that's uh, in real life. That was how a lot of the sort of these sort of empire guys and actually a number of Americans as well did similar things. They travelled as as holy men.
yes, yeah,
Richard Burton, for instance. Sorry, Sir Richard Francis Burton, not the
mm,
actor, the
yeah,
Victorian hero, as it were. He was supposedly the first white man to go to Mecca,
uh-huh,
and for that most of that journey, he travelled as a holy man
mm,
in disguise. So it's 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 an actual thing. People really did do that,
yeah,
and they got around quite well. I know Burton nearly got caught because uh, basically white men stand up to take a pee, and
yeah,
apparently Arabs don't.
right,
He nearly got caught taking a pee in the wrong way, sort of thing. It's like the four fingers
yeah,
in the Tarantino thing. That sort of just one little slip up nearly gets you murdered.
yeah, yeah. Um, so Peachy, you kind of get like the voiceover from Peachy. He kind of tells the story of their travel. And he says that they turned off at this point towards Kafiristan, and that the caravan kind of almost mourned their leaving because from what they believed, they had actually brought them good fortune on
Good
their
luck. Yeah,
journey. You know,
yeah,
so they got given like 2 camels, right? I think.
something like
Um,
that. Yeah,
yeah.
and and Danny danced them out all the way
Yeah, he
outside.
like he played the madman the whole way until they were gone.
Yeah.
And God, you just feel like Connery's having a bloody great time in this role.
Well, I think that's it. I think that's the one of the wonderful things about this movie is you can
He's like, "Oh,
see
I'm
that.
hanging out with me mate. We're having a good
Yeah,
time," you know.
both
Yeah.
absolutely reveling in these parts.
Hmm. Yeah. He explains that they travel mostly by night, avoiding the major villages and stuff. They didn't want to waste ammunition or anything on anyone
Mm,
they might come across.
yeah,
So they kept to themselves from that point on, pretty much, as they traveled. Um, and yeah, so
and you
they
get these
get
one you get wonderful, aerial shots of them traveling,
oh amazing.
and when they get to later on when they get to the snow, it's even fucking even even better. But they get to a river and they realize that
Yes,
there's
they
no
make
cross.
they blow up the bladder, and I can't remember what he says. He's got that Danny has that story about someone who bet him he could blow up the bladder in one go, and he did it
Yeah,
by like by like use, but presumably farting into it is what the insinuation was. He said it was using
yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah,
but the shot of them going down the rapids is pretty tense, man. It's a
yeah.
really great shot as
Great,
well.
and that's it. That's one of these another of those. It's that this is a pure adventure movie, and
Oh yeah,
those scenes are just wonderful. It's that
yeah.
sort of the high adventure of Victorian fiction. It's that
Oh.
wonderful storytelling, and the book, the story itself is only like 20 pages long, I think.
Yeah, I mean I always maintain the best films are made from short stories, as a general rule. Um but they make camp to dry out when they see 5 Afghans coming, don't they?
Mm.
On mules.
Oh,
And
yours.
they're trying to work out how they can take out 5 of them
Yeah,
and also not spook the mules because Danny's immediately like, "Well, just fucking shoot them."
just shoot
And
them
he's
off.
like,
Yeah,
but if you do that, the mules will bolt, and then we'll have to run after the mules. Which, spoiler, that he ends up having to run after them anyway.
yeah.
But presumably they don't run as far.
Well, he says what we have to do now is we have to subtract how we subtract 5 Afghans from 3 mules and still end up with 2 Englishmen.
Yes. And so Peachy puts a bullet in his mouth. I think it's a bullet, right?
Yeah, it's a bullet. Yeah, he
yeah.
says to Danny, he says, "You just sit there, and I'll sit over." And he takes out, I think it's like a bag of dates. I think what he's
Yeah,
got.
I think it's dates, and then he's spitting the seeds out, isn't he? But he's got the bullet
Yeah.
in his mouth.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of offers a date to one of the chaps who basically looks and isn't terribly impressed. Meanwhile, the other guys are all swarming Danny. They're all looking at Danny, looking if they can steal anything, checking for weapons.
It's his boots, isn't it? That they sort of right. That's it. Because the guy who's
Oh,
with
they want
Peach,
the boots. Sorry, yes, I thought. Yeah, sorry,
yeah,
I forgot. I
they
thought they
want
were
Danny's
checking for
Danny's
weapons.
boots,
Yeah.
and the guy who's with Peachy, he feels Peachy's boots as well. So that
Yeah,
obviously
and when he does it, that's when he spits the bullet into the fire, isn't it?
yeah.
And then of course the bullet goes off. They all turn, and then of course that's enough for Peachy to lamp the
Danny
guy with him.
lamps him. Danny lamps him.
No. Peachy hits him with a rock. Hits him in the skull with a rock. The guy that's
The first one, yeah, but the other guys, Danny hits with the rifle.
Yeah. But yeah, Peachy takes out one of them with a rock. And then Danny takes out the rest. So they end up with the mules for a little while. Gets them some of the journey, because of course then they've dealt with the horrendous heat. Now they're dealing with the horrendous cold, because they're heading into the mountains, and it's like many miles of mountainous terrain from the scene of things. And you see that Danny goes snowblind, in fact.
Yep.
And which again is another great thing. You see the two of them working together to just resolve their issues.
Yeah.
You know,
Danny's just holding on to the back of the mule as they're going along.
And of course they come across 2 giants.
Yeah.
Which I particularly enjoyed, because you get Peachy shoots them both. He's like, "I shoot him." Like, Daddy's like, "Shoot him."
He says, "Give him a round apiece."
Yeah. And of course they realize they're made of wood, which is quite fortunate.
Yeah.
Because they basically realize they reach a chasm, effectively. It's like impassable. I think Peachy says, it just goes down forever in a straight line. And so they're kind of stuck there, freezing to death. Now, luckily, of course, they've got these giants to burn for a while, presumably these sacred statues that they're just like, "Oh, fuck it, we need firewood." And of course, by this point, I think the mules have all died as well, or at least all but one, maybe.
Yeah, I think so.
Because I know it ends up with Danny dragging the packs the rest of the way, doesn't it? At some point.
Yeah.
But they find this kind of sort of, I guess, cover. They find some rock cover to sit under. That cures Danny's snow blindness, obviously, because they warm up. But they're trapped. They can't go any further, and they talk about how it's going to suck to basically die. I think Danny says, "I was going to, I never wanted to die by the inch. This is a horrible."
Yeah, Danny says, "I don't fancy dying much by the cold, inches." And Peachy says, "Don't worry, I'll do us both when the time comes. When the fire's out and the time comes, I'll do us both. It'll be fine." And again,
and Danny laments, like, we're a stone's throw from where we need to fucking be.
Yeah, just across that chasm, basically, is where they need to get. And I love it, the way Danny says, basically he says, have we been good men? Have we done good things?
Have we misspent our lives? Yeah.
Yeah, and he says, and Danny Peachy says, "Well, I think it depends on how you look at it, don't it?" It's like I don't think we're going to leave a great legacy, but
but we had fun.
Been all right. We've done really good. He says, and besides, he says, how many men can say they've seen what we've seen?
He says how far we've traveled, and he's like, that's almost certainly no one has traveled as much as we have and seen what we've seen.
No one's seen or done what we've done, and that's good enough for him.
And I forget the whole story that he tells that makes them laugh, but it's something to do with someone's bollocks getting shot off, isn't it, or something?
It's something to do, yeah. It's something to do with this guy who something happened. I can't remember the bloody story now, but basically he ends up in a panic running towards the enemy, and of course all the soldiers there think he's making a go for it, so they all follow him,
Yeah, and he
and
gets a
of course
Victoria Cross for it.
he ends up getting the Victoria Cross for bravery, and of course it was, you know, it was all like, so of course they start laughing, and that's what sets off
An avalanche.
an avalanche
Yeah,
and
yeah.
saves their asses. You know,
Yeah,
it
yeah, because of course it goes
fills up.
straight over their cover and
Yeah,
fills the gap. So they've
yep.
now got a path. And I really love that scene. There's something so lovely about them kind of laughing in the face of almost certain death at that moment.
Yeah, that's it. That's it for them. They're having their, you know, they're
And
sort of
you
like
see it
having
throughout. You see it throughout the movie. Whenever they're faced with death, they're gonna do it with a smile and not cower in the
Yep.
face of it. You know.
Yeah.
You feel like they've seen enough death through soldiering and stuff to you know to really be scared of it.
Yeah.
You know, like Connery's only concern, or Danny's only concern was, you know, I don't want to die of frostbite. That's a fucking horrible way to go.
Yeah.
But as soon as Peachy's like, don't worry, we got plenty of bullets. You know, he's like, oh yeah, actually, that's a good point. Fair enough. No worries. You know. So ultimately, they make it off the mountain. They finally make it off. And get out of the snow. And then, you know, they get to the promised land, and we see how beautiful that, you know, all of that is. You know, the mountainous terrain up there is just gorgeous.
We should also say that when they're traveling, we get the first instance of Danny singing "Son of God
yes.
goes forth to war."
Yes.
The
Yes.
hymn that he sings, which is apparently is sung, but is the version they used with the tune from Minstrel Boy, I think it is, which funnily
Right.
enough is apparently what Miles O'Brien sings in one of the episodes of DS9.
Oh, really?
So yeah, the Minstrel Boy one is, yeah.
Ah.
When they're talking about,
he's sung quite a few songs during DS9.
yeah, well, I think it's one of the episodes where he's with one of the officers and they're talking about, I think they're talking about the Cardassian War.
Oh, okay. Oh.
So yeah, we get the first sort of thing about that. Oh, of course, we also get the the exclamation that they keep using, which is "God's holy trousers."
Yes, that's a wonderful saying.
It's great, isn't it?
I was actually thinking I might try and adopt that from now.
I was thinking that as well.
Because it just sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
So anyway, they come across some people. I think it's mostly women that are washing clothes, right?
Women and children washing clothes. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course they see some raiders coming. And so they're like, well, that's convenient for us because we want to come and prove how you know how great we are. And so they take out the raiders who have, you know, donned these demon masks.
Yeah.
And they pretty much just shoot all but one of them. I think only one of them is still, or at least only one of them is still alive. They didn't run away, I guess.
Yeah, they take him prisoner, don't they?
And it doesn't like Peachy say, "Oh, wow, every day must be Halloween for these people." You know, he picks up one of the masks. It's just like,
yeah.
And so they take one of them prisoner, thinking, well, you know, that'll be fine because we can go to the nearby settlement and just be like, look, we caught the guy and we killed them. Aren't we great? But of course, as soon as they get there, they get a volley of arrows launched at them immediately. And Daddy's just like, that's bloody rude.
Yeah.
Like, again, they're not that bothered about it. They're just like, oh, bloody hell, that's rude.
Yeah. Just another thing they've got to deal with. That's all.
Yeah.
Nothing.
But then
I think that's the great thing about them is nothing is unsurmountable. Everything can be dealt with. You just have to look at it from the right angle.
Yeah. But then you do get a chap turns up in the top of one of the towers, and he's like, "Hey, might you be Englishmen?" And they're like, "Yes, we are." And then he's like, "Oh, okay, fair enough. You know, maybe we won't shoot you." And of course, the chap comes running down the hill towards them.
And he introduces himself as I'm gonna butcher this, Michandra Bahadar Gurung, otherwise known as Billy Fish.
Yes.
And Danny's like, bloody hell, it's a Gurkha.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, we come all this way and there's a bloody Gurkha here. This is wonderful. And he explains that he was part of the geographer geography party.
Yes.
The mountain came down on them, and it was only Billy Fish that survived. So
Yeah.
he's been basically living there ever since.
Yeah. Um,
He
and
says,
he
I
says he
tell them,
explained to the. Go on.
yeah, he says that he's explained that they're Englishmen, and that you know
He says
they're
he says that I told them you were great English soldiers.
yeah.
Yeah. And of course he you know he obviously welcomes them in, opens the doors for them, and they meet the chief of the village, right?
Yeah, Uta.
Yeah, and they're like, well, these guns they seem pretty good. How do they work? You know, this seems like a pretty good thing,
Yeah.
and they shoot a crow, don't they? Or Peachy shoots a crow, I think. And they say, look, you know, we're here to basically we're gonna help you. We're gonna turn your force, your village into a fighting force, and we'll kill your enemies, just like we killed the demons outside your gate. And look, we even caught one of them. And Billy's like, they take him, and all the women start like grabbing him as soon as he goes in there, as soon as he's thrown to them. And Billy's just like, no, they're gonna cut his bollocks off. And Billy's like, Jesus Christ, you know. But yeah, they're like, you know, we're gonna, you know, we will help you conquer your enemies, and you know.
And I love it the way he says, who are your worst enemies? And he says, it's this tribe that lives upriver. And he says, oh, what is it they do? And he says, well, whenever we come out to bathe, they come out upriver and they piss in the stream while we're bathing.
Yeah. And the great thing is that the people they fight next say the same bloody thing.
Yeah,
about someone else. Like it's going on constantly. Yeah.
The next tribe up the river, I guess, is what they're...
Yeah. Somewhere upriver is the tribe doing that.
Yeah.
You know? Like, and they're all blaming each other. But yeah, so he kind of does plead with them. He's like, you know, there's enemies all around, but the Bashkai, is it? The Bashkai are the worst.
Something like that, yeah.
And so they're like, well, okay, you know, there's you know, they're the ones that will help you with first, at least. And so like, well, he's like, well, you know, if you can, I think he says for every one of them you kill, I will give you like a cow or something, I think.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he's like, well, Peachy's like, that's a lovely offer, but we'd like to do them all at once. It's like, we'd like to just get all of them done, you know? And he's like, how would you do that? And he says, well, by taking your brave men into battle, by training them and taking them into battle. And he says, well, you know, we would do it for the honor of your brave people and whatever souvenirs we might find along the way, you know?
Yeah.
And then he says, you know, the Bashkai were only the beginning. We will keep going until you run out of enemies. We'll get rid of all of them, and you'll be the monarch of all you survey, I think Billy says.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I mean,
I love it when he says to the guy says, "Are you gods?" And he says, and Peachy says, "Not gods, Englishmen," which is the next best thing.
Yeah. But again, that's great foreshadowing as well, you know.
Yeah.
And so later we get the they're offered some alcohol, and of course they deny it, saying, "Oh no, until we've conquered your enemies, vanquished your enemies, we won't drink alcohol."
Yeah, we won't drink alcohol.
And then he offers them women who turn out to be all of his daughters.
Yeah, 28 daughters or something, and he's like, he says he's a dirty old man, isn't he? And Peachy says, "No, Danny." He says, you know, different countries, different customs. He says we must do it them.
But then the bloke says, "Oh, well, you can have some of the sons if you want." If
he says, "Well, you prefer sons." He says, "I've got like 30 odd sons," and of course, then
Peachy's outraged, and Danny says that, yeah.
And Peachy's again like, "No." He says, you know, different countries, different customs.
So good. But yeah, in any case, they then see the locals playing polo. And like, oh, it's polo. I guess it's very much like we play it, just with a bigger ball. And then he says, like, you know, how big is that ball? And Billy says, it depends on the size of the head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thoroughly disgusted by the savagery of them playing polo with the head of well, it's the guy that they took, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And you get the impression that after what they did to him, getting his head cut off was probably a mercy.
Probably a mercy.
Um, and then we see a training montage. We see Billy telling them he's gonna teach them how to slaughter people like civilized men.
Yeah, he says, "Listen, you benighted muckers, we're going to teach you soldiering, the noblest profession, and when we're done, you'll be able to slaughter your enemies like civilized men."
Yeah, this is such a good line. And he teaches them. They teach them how to shoot, how to fight with swords, and how to march.
And it's a real Michael Caine moment where you get the the angry Michael Caine, trying to get them to count in time. Yeah. And there's one bloke who just can't do it. He's either counting too late or too
and his feet are all over the place, and
it's like, with the others.
Later that night, one of the many daughters comes up to Peachy and decides to start disrobing.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I've got a contract and it clearly states. But of course, she takes all of her clothes off, and then he starts getting tempted. And luckily, Danny comes through the door at that exact moment.
I love that. Danny comes in and he's just going, "Oh, it's like that, is it?" He's
like, "Rescue me!"
He's like,
"Help
"Thank
me!"
God." He says, "Let's go and seek safety in battle."
Yeah. And so they do, and you see that amongst their packed items were their uniforms, as they are now fully dressed in uniform.
Yeah.
As they head to take on the first of their enemies, who it's quite clear have no real fucking military training whatsoever, because they just all come barreling out of the entranceway of their fort, just running down the hill aimlessly towards them.
Well, I guess it's just village skirmishes, as that's all.
It's village skirmishes, exactly. But now they've come up against this actual trained unit, because they've actually been trained in how to fight, and they're being, they're being headed up by two experienced military men. Or at least one of them.
No doubt. Well, no, they're both sergeants.
Well, yes, but as we will soon discover, Danny is a little more reckless.
Yeah.
But of course, before the battle can begin, everyone falls to their knees and prays. Apart from Peachy and Danny, who were a bit bewildered. And we see the monks come through, or monks, I don't know what you would call them, for lack of a better term. Religious people.
Priests or monks,
Priests, let's call them priests. The priests are coming through, and they say, well, they're the most holy people, and they he's like, oh, but Peach is like, why are their eyes closed? And he says, well, Billy says, well, because they don't want to see anything bad. They don't want to see any sin.
Mm-hmm. They don't want to see any horrors until they get back to the city.
Yes,
and they're being led by a small boy, aren't they?
Yes, who I guess does see. He sees for them.
He's leading them, so he sees for them. I believe in that. And he's ringing a bell as they go.
Yeah, and Billy says, battle is postponed until they've passed. And of course, once they pass, then
everybody immediately gets back up. Yeah,
the murdering starts.
Ready to go again.
And we see they quite roundly defeat them, but during this, Danny does quite, I guess, aggressively and recklessly charges the enemy, and ends up kind of almost single-handedly taking on a bunch of them, taking in the process an arrow to where his heart would be roughly.
Well, he takes an arrow to the chest, doesn't he? Basically.
Yeah, but it's roughly where his heart would be.
Yeah.
And I love, obviously, this arrow comes to symbolize an awful lot in a moment.
Mm-hmm.
But what I love about it is, as soon as he takes the arrow out, he immediately uses it as a swagger stick.
Yeah.
Like the rest of the movie, that's his swagger
Yeah.
stick, is this arrow. I love it.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's almost the sort of the point where he starts becoming not just, you know,
not just Danny the soldier.
not just Danny. Yeah, he's now at this point he's Danny the officer almost. You know, he starts already. He's started
starting his ascension. Yeah,
his ascension. Yeah.
But at this stage, he does still have the humility to say in private to Peachy, "Oh, it was just the bandolier. It just struck the bandolier," and you know.
Yeah, and I like. He's like, Peachy's having a go at him. He's like, "No, what? Because you ought to be ashamed of yourself, a man of your age." He says, chasing off like some lieutenant who wants to bloody get into dispatches.
Yeah.
What if you'd have died? Because they'd have left Peachy all on his own. And he's like, "Oh, I'm really sorry." He says, "Just the blood got up."
Yeah. But of course they're a little confused because their enemy just bows, takes a knee immediately, and they're like, he's like, what the hell just happened? And of course they now believe him to be a god. He took an arrow to the chest and then just kind of pulled it out without being particularly bothered about it.
Yeah, it didn't bleed.
Didn't bleed, which is quite a key point that will come up later. Yeah, he's now seen as something godlike that cannot be hurt.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the leader of the village is about to cut someone's head off, and he's like, "Oh, this sword's a bit blunt," so he's trying to sharpen the blade against the wall. And of course, Danny comes in. He's like, "What are you doing? Like, we're not beheading people." And immediately they're like, "No, leave him to us." And of course, they get them all to stand. They're like, "Right, you're going to pay reparations, but then you're part of our team, and then we're going to be an even bigger force." And he said, "Who are your enemies?" And you see, this is what they're going to do. They're going to just basically unite the force, much like Alexander the Great, I guess. You know, just building forces and forces and forces and working their way across the land. And yeah, so you know, Billy says, "Oh, it's our custom to cut off the enemy's heads," and they're like, "No, not anymore, not anymore." And of course, again, you get the same thing about the enemies pissing down the stream. And
when they go to Spain,
which is quite funny. But yeah, so he's like, "No, now we're going to be brothers in arms. We're going to march under one banner, and you know, we're going to share alike in the victories to come." And of course, they think he's a bloody god, so they're like, "Yeah, cool." You know, not gonna argue.
Yeah, they start calling him son of Sikander, don't they?
Yes, who is Alexander the Great, right?
Yeah, their word for Alexander.
Yeah. Yeah, so later that day, Danny explains the bandolier was what actually stopped the bullet. Peachy's counting, or not counting, he's going through the jewelry and the spoils and kind of counting up how much it's worth, basically.
Yeah. And I love the whole sort of thing where you know, even Billy Fish is sort of thinking he's the son of Sikander. And they're like,
"Yeah,
no.
he does start to believe, but he then immediately shows him the bandolier. He's like, "No."
He says no. He says no. He says what? So he's not a god? He's like, no. He says he's just a man. He says, like, "You all right?" He says, "Only he can break wind from both ends," which is something that I bet no god can do. And he says, you know, he says this is just, you'll just have to tell them, you know, we're not gods, we're just men. And Peachy's like, "Hang on a minute, wait a second." He says, we can work on this. He says, "I mean, I ask you, who would you rather follow, a man or a god?"
Well, yeah, and Danny says, like, "Oh, we can do this, you know, without being gods." But Peachy's like, "Yeah, but we could do it a lot bloody faster if they believe you're a god.
Yeah,
you know, we'll get this done a lot quicker." You know,
and it's like, and Danny's like, "It's a bit blasphemous though, isn't it?"
It's like, no. It's only blasphemous if you're talking about the one God Almighty. But we're talking about different. Yeah.
Yeah, we're not talking about God. That's fine.
We're not impersonating our God. We're impersonating their God, which is fine. Yeah.
And that's it. Convinced, completely convinced. They don't, it doesn't need any more convincing than that.
No,
It's just
no,
going to be easier for them.
yeah. Although you kind of feel like Peachy might live to regret encouraging this behavior early
Oh
on,
yeah,
but never mind. Um, but yeah, so they hear a commotion coming on outside, and Danny's like, "Oh, is it Polo again?" And then they kind of head out. And of course it is. They have another head, presumably from somewhere. Um, and yeah, as soon as he steps out there, he's kind of greeted as this son of Alexander, a
yeah,
god. And they say that their numbers swelled over the coming weeks and months. They
yeah. And
did build this terrific army.
again, you get that absolutely beautiful shot of the army. You see the
Yeah,
whole
there's like I
parade.
mean the number of extras in this is incredible.
Yeah, it's stunning, isn't it? I think it was filmed in Morocco. I think so. They
Mm,
use all locals from Morocco, and yeah, that shot of that pans along the army train, as it were. It's
yeah,
wonderful.
yeah. I mean, Kurosawa did similar where you're kind of looping the same number of people
Yeah.
across the screen to give that
Mhm,
impression. But here
mhm.
they're all wearing different clothes, so I'm pretty sure it is just a vast number of people that they got
Yeah,
together to make these shots, and it is
yeah.
stunning to see. It really is. Yeah,
I mean,
wonderful,
a
wonderful
lot of these
shots.
sorts of things, like in Waterloo, when they
Yes.
used the army,
Uh-huh.
they just used whatever country's army they're in, and in most cases that works really bloody well. Because the
Mm.
best thing is that they're already used to the drill and stuff,
Oh, absolutely.
so you can get them organized pretty well quite
Mm.
quickly.
I particularly love the shot when they're walking along. I think they're walking along. They're marching alongside the river, and you just get that shot that pans out and just keeps panning out, and you just see
Yeah,
the length of the
yeah, it's
army.
beautiful.
It's really really good. Um, and yeah, so they were basically treated like gods everywhere they went from this point on, or at least Danny was.
Yeah, and they get to
Uh,
the place where they don't even need to fight anymore. They just basically turn up.
yeah. Now, it one of these locations, Danny spots a beautiful girl
Yeah.
who is terrified of him,
Hmm.
and he questions why she's terrified. And Billy says, "Well, basically, you're a god, and they believe that if you made love to her, she would explode into flames and turn to ash, and she doesn't really want to spontaneously combust. She's not
Yeah,
keen."
I love the way Peachy says, "I bet you a jealous goddess made that up."
Yes, yeah. And I love that Billy, as soon as he's like talking about her and saying how beautiful she is, he turns to Peachy. He's like, "Just looking, Peachy, just looking." It's like I'm not going to break this contract. Just looking.
And I
Um,
love he says, what's her name? And she says
mm,
Roxanne. And of
yes, which
course, Peachy's like, wasn't that the name of the woman
Alexander's,
that
yeah.
Alexander married?
Uh huh.
And Danny's like, yeah, it was. That was exactly what it said in that book.
Yeah,
And this is
yeah.
this is where you start getting the sort of the changes happening, because Peachy's still
Now he's
finding
starting to believe his own hype. Yeah.
yeah, Peachy's still finding it funny. He's still there laughing.
He's
And,
seeing
and
weird
Danny
coincidence, but Danny's starting to be like, "Oh wait, maybe
Danny's
this is
yeah,
a
he's
a
seeing
greater thing."
yeah, he starts seeing a plan. He starts seeing, more than just coincidence
A
and
destiny,
luck.
dare I say? Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, so there we go. We have met Roxanne, who you can tell Danny is immediately enthralled by.
yeah,
Um,
and that of course is that's Shakira Kane, Michael Caine's
mhm.
wife.
Yeah, yeah, who is
Who,
fucking beautiful.
oh,
So
she's stunning. And she's still beautiful now, even after all these
Oh, I'm
years.
sure.
Still wearing. And I love the they met. Well, he saw an advert. I think it was a coffee advert. He saw a coffee advert with her, and he said, "That's the girl I'm going to marry." So he
Mhm.
basically put out all these like feelers trying to track her
I
down.
remember seeing the interview where he discussed that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how he tracked her down, and they've been married ever since.
Mm.
And she got the part because I think they were sat there, and Huston, I think he'd already had an actress in mind, but he decided that he wanted someone that looked a little bit more native. And of course, they're all sat there around this table discussing it, and of course they're all looking at Shakira, and she's like, "Fuck off! No way! Absolutely not! I am not doing this."
Yeah.
And apparently, Houston went and had a discussion with her, and they talked. And she came back and she said, "Oh yeah, I'm doing it." And he says to this day he still doesn't know what Houston told her. She's never said, and he's never asked. But
Right.
he said something to convince her to do the part. So that's so.
We'll
Yeah,
pay
she
you
was up for
shitloads
it.
of money and you don't have to say a single line. That
Pretty much, yeah. I imagine that's
I mean,
probably what it was.
that might work.
All you've got to say is Roxanne at one point, and that's it.
Oh yeah,
Everything
she
else-
does say her name. You're right. She does say
Yeah.
her name. Yeah.
And she
Yeah,
had been in other stuff before.
Oh yeah.
But she
Yeah.
kind of, I think she'd kind of given up on it. She didn't want to do it anymore.
So anyway, they are interrupted by the priests who turn up with a message from Kafu Salim, who is the high priest, I guess.
Yeah.
And Billy says, he's the high priest of Kafiristan, and it's like, okay, well, what's Billy's like, well, what's the message? And he basically says, well, Kafu Salim says to come, and it's like, what, to come? Is that all? Just come? Like, that's, doesn't waste words, does he? I think he says something like that. He's like, doesn't waste words, does he? This boy.
He says, we'll basically come, when we've got time. We'll some further down the road sort of thing is what he says. He's like, no. Come means come now.
And he says, well, okay, well, you'll have to give us like a day or so to rouse the troops, and then we'll be on our way. We'll head your way. And he's like, no, come alone. And they're kind of ready to say no, but I think it's Billy that's like, you can't, you can't deny them.
Yeah,
it's the high fucking priest. Like, you
and
can't,
I think this is where Peachy, realizes.
Peachy says, like, hey, maybe this is time to fucking go. Like, cut and run.
He's like, either we've either got to go, and he says, oh, who are we in danger of being killed by? And he says, our own men.
Our own men, if they find out we're mortal. Yeah.
It's our own men. If we
if we've been impersonating one of their gods, they will murder the fuck out of us.
The only thing a god can't stand to lose is face. This isn't. If we don't go and see him, that's it for us.
Mm-hmm. So they do. They head up there, and my God, what a beautiful place this is, with all the waterfalls and wonderful lush greenery. Stunning. I think like every landscape in this movie is just stunning.
Yep.
It's
really cool. And I love I'm watching the making of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
When you see those beautiful buildings and stuff, it's all just fronts. Really funny when it's literally the old
matte painting.
It's the distance one is, but when they get into the buildings, when they get along it, it's all just fronts, nothing else.
Oh yeah,
Scaffold in and all that, and I love it when you see that.
It's the magic of filmmaking, isn't it? It looks so convincing.
Works. Yeah, beautiful.
There, I mean, every now and again, you'll get some actor that's like, hey, I might just, if we built an actual Wild West town here, then we could just make multiple movies, and we could just stay here like a hotel and live in a Wild West town and film movies.
Yeah.
But outside of that, it's usually like, hey, we'll just make fronts and things that we need,
Yeah. Well, Japan has got a similar thing with the samurai.
Yes, they do.
They have a village and a little town that they've got set up for movies.
I forget who did that in America. It was some famous Western actor. Can't remember who it was now. It was a bunch of them. I think they got together and they're like, well, if we actually, because I think it's still there to this day.
Yeah, I think it's one of the places they do shows still, isn't it?
Yeah. But anyway, so they head up to meet the high priest, and of course he, you do see the ominous statue with the eye. Obviously,
the highest god.
Haven't got to the symbolism of the eye yet, but you see the god statue stood there, which becomes, I I really love when they keep cutting back to that towards the end as things are going down.
Yeah, it's just looking on.
But in any case, he's Danny's getting almost impatient. He's like, oh, where is this high priest? He's kind of like, and like you said, he is starting to turn now. He's starting to believe his own hype, and he's getting almost petulant and short with people. But of course, the high priest comes out and he says, "Oh, afternoon, Your Reverence. You wanted to see me," and he kind of gestures that he wants to see the arrow. So he shows the high priest the arrow. And the high priest kind of feels it, and he's like, "Oh no, it's genuine arrow and whatnot." And Danny says, "Oh, he can keep it as a gift." The priest takes it and he says, "Okay, well, now we'll see." And I was kind of surprised. Again, it is like Danny's ego at this point, to where like surely if you had the right mind about you, you would have been like, no.
Yeah.
He's like, "Okay, now we'll see." Sure. So he just kind of walks up and follows him. I would not have followed him. He's like, "Now we'll see." Like, no. Although they are there without their army, so they're kind of screwed anyway. But But yeah, so he tells him to stand there, and so Billy does. The high priest walks away, and then a chap approaches with a bow and arrow. And of course, Peachy immediately goes to move and pushes the guy so that he misses. But the priests grab both of them, overwhelm them, and one of the, I think it's is it the high priest that rips open his shirt, or is that no? So I think it's one of the other guys.
The high priest's got
he's got the sword, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's taking the sword or a dagger out, and the two of the guys holding Danny ripped open his jacket.
And of course, it reveals the Mason symbol.
Yeah.
And immediately they stop. And the high priest then takes them over to I'm not quite sure what it is. Like a urn or something. I'm not quite sure.
I thought it was a stone because they lift it.
But it's like it's a stone. I thought it was like a container of some kind, and the logo, for lack of a better word, the symbol is on the other side. But I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what it is.
But either way, it turns out that this is their religious symbol, effectively, and it's a symbol that nobody has seen except for the high priest, I think.
Yeah,
like the whole symbol. So like, there's no way they would have known, which is why they're convinced then. Oh, actually, he is a god. Because he has this symbol.
He has this. Yeah, he has the Sikander symbol.
And so, yeah, I mean, I would have probably still been like, I'm just gonna, all right, you are God, but we are still gonna just stick you with an arrow quickly, just to be sure.
Yeah, just to make sure.
In case, just to make absolutely sure. But they don't. They take it on faith at that point, and so now he is undisputed God.
Yeah, he's got the assurances of the priest.
Yeah.
The high priest says he must be a god, so he is. That's it.
That's it. Yeah, if you've got the high priest blessing, that is the word, and that's all they need. So from that point on, they are gods, and of course he takes them to the chambers where he is given Alexander the Great's crown.
Yeah, well, he's sort of anointed, isn't he? He's sort of like he's washed and bathed, and he's put in new robes, and he's given the crown.
Yeah,
and then they're taken to the treasury.
Mm-hmm. And it's quite a fucking treasury. Like, they've got no bloody. I was thinking through this whole thing. I was like, you've got no fucking way of getting that much gold out of this treasury.
Yeah.
Like, how would you ever get this home? Like, you need an army to take it.
Even Peachy says that we'll never get it all out. We won't really need to. I think there's enough here that we
just live like kings here.
Yeah, exactly.
I love the first thing Peachy does is lick it, and he's like, "It's not brass."
Yeah,
he's like, "It's not brass, Danny."
Not brass, Danny. I love it. Danny takes out this fuck off great ruby from one of the chests, and I think he says, "God's holy
and then Peachy gets out another one,
and Peachy
even
says,
bigger.
"Here's an even bigger one. This is fucking even bigger."
Yeah.
Ruby.
Oh, it's
And
great
I love it.
stuff.
He says, wait a minute. He says, what, what if we were to take this away? What if, you know, if we wanted to take this away with us? And
Mm.
so Billy Fish talking to the guy, and he says, take it, leave it. That makes no difference to them. It's yours. So
Yeah, basically, as far as they're concerned, this was Alexander's. He's the
yeah,
descendant of Alexander or the reincarnation of Alexander. I'm not quite sure
yeah,
which.
yeah.
Either
Well,
way,
they call him
the
son of
jewels are
Sikander,
his.
because I think they said Billy explains that when Sikander said he had to go back to the west or whatever it was, and he
Yeah.
says um, they tore their hair and they tore their clothes,
Mm.
and Sikander said one day he'd send a son back.
Yeah.
So that's what. So they think he's literally the son of Sikander.
Mm. By the way, I assume that the blades on the swords are not also gold because that would be a really shit sword. But oh yeah, and he gets the golden arrow, doesn't he? He gets given a golden arrow now.
Yeah, he gets
to carry.
golden arrow to replace his normal one with.
Yeah.
And as you said, he's literally walking around with this gold swagger stick arrow.
Yeah. I will say as well, I mean, it has happened several times through his career. But fuck me, Connery looks just right in a crown. You know? As soon as you put a crown on him, you're like, yeah, that just looks right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so they basically they've arrived. And all they need to do now is not fuck this up.
Yeah. And I think he says, what month is it? And he says, I think it's January or February.
Mm.
And he says, basically, they've got, before the passes are clear, they got 4 months.
Yeah.
To wait around before they can leave, before they can make their escape. And they're like,
yeah.
And Danny's like, well, 4 months of this. This is fine. Like,
it's heaven. Yeah.
We can manage 4 months here.
Mm. And of course he does. You see him basically settling disputes. You see the going concern, as he calls her.
I love that whole thing.
So good.
Yeah, this
bloke's
he's got was it 60 odd cows or something?
Because of his wife's infidelity.
Yeah, it's like every time he catches a bloke with his wife, the guy has to give him 2 cows.
So
and
good.
He's like, bloody hell! He's giving 60 cows and like 20 goats or something.
Yeah,
and he says she's not a wife; she's a going concern. And he comes up with this whole thing, this whole he has to do this and this.
He comes up with the compensation, but he can't add it up, so Peachy has to do it for him.
Yeah, and I love it. He says Peachy's keeping track. Peachy gives him the exact number, and he says, "Was it
14 2/3, I think."
Yeah, which means that he has to give all these cows back to them, to the wives. He says, but he's not going to have enough, so it means his wife is going to have to end up with more infidelities.
Yeah,
just to
break even.
Debt. Yeah. Because let's see how he's doing it when it's other blokes' debts he's having to pay off.
Yeah.
And they get the next one comes out and they're talking about grain, and he settles up grain. And of course Peachy laughs at one point, and Danny immediately chastises him. He's like, "This is no laughing matter. This is this is the law. This is the laws I'm making here."
Yeah.
And he says to Billy, "What law is it now?" He says, something like 35 or something. And he says, "All right." He says, after that, he says, "I'm going to have a 5-minute rest here a minute." And he goes off and he says, "Oh, Peachy, come over." Peachy goes over and he says, "Peachy, look." He says,
"Just so you know,
when you walk past, you've got to, bow your head."
But he does say, like, you have just to keep up appearances, you understand, just to keep up appearances. He's still not like quite lost it yet. He is like, no,
But you can,
it's gone to his head, but you don't,
And Kane's look of pain, you can see it.
Yeah.
You can see
he's like, I'm losing my friend to this. Yeah.
You can see the look of pain in his face, and he just says, "All right, Danny, no problem. I'll I'll do that for you. Not a problem.
And I would say this is a minor nitpicky thing, but I felt like rewatching this. I was like, it does a fine job. I would have liked to have seen a little more time of Danny kind of losing himself, a little more. But that's just me, and it's a minor thing. I think the film does it perfectly fine.
No,
I just felt
think
like
it does it does a really good job of this. Oh,
I think it does. I think I
the
just
slowness of
I think I would have liked a little more personally, but
I think it's like it goes along. There's another sort of little chink. There's another
yes, yeah.
fall each time. There's another way in that you see that he's taking it more and more serious.
Oh yeah. I just felt like I could have done with a little bit more of that, but that's just it's a personal taste thing, and I think the film does it very well anyway. It's not,
I think it does. I think it does it perfectly, especially to when you get to the point of when he says,
"Oh yeah, no, that's wonderful." That stuff, yeah.
When he says, "I'm not going."
Yeah, that's very good. But yeah, we also see that he builds the bridge, which will not come back to bite him later.
Yeah, so because they've got nothing else to do, they've got
they build a bridge out of boredom. Yeah,
to give Peachy something to do because he's the leader of his armies now.
Yeah,
and so they build this rope bridge across the gorge, and it's great.
And so Peachy says, "Hey, as you said, time to go.
Yeah,
we got everything." And Danny's like, I ain't going, Peach. I'm staying.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, what have you been drinking? And he's like, I've not been drinking anything. I see completely clear. He's like, it's like bandages have been removed from my eyes.
Yeah. Well, he said actually, he says you're mental. He says you're losing it. You're off your head. And he says, no, I'm not off my head. He says, I haven't been drinking either. And he says there's too many. He says there's just too many things here. There's just too many
signs.
Signs. He says
He says there's more than meets the eye.
He says why that watch? Why that? Why did you steal that watch? Why was it that symbol? That Why was it this and that and how?
And this is a thing that you see in life. People take coincidence as signs. They have historically throughout time. So yeah, absolutely.
He says everything's been there for him, and he says he feels like he's worn this crown before. He says he feels like he's the reincarnation. He feels like
he started to proper believe it. And as you said before, the thing. I mean, Connery's performance is excellent, but Kane's expression and his face just says everything.
Yeah,
so good. Because a lot of that scene is the back of Connery's head, and Kane's face.
Yeah,
you see Kane looking at his friend, and just the look of pain in his eyes, like you said, is tremendous. Really, really good.
And he's pleading with him. He's like, "Don't do this. This is madness." He says, "We can go back home. We will live like kings back home.
We're rich as we'll ever need to be."
Yeah, and of course, Danny's like, about meeting the Queen on equal terms, and her giving him, a knighthood and that, and how, they'll talk as equals.
Yeah, and the thing is, they've got the perfect out as well, because Alexander did this. He left and said, "Oh,
I'll come back one day.
You could do exactly the same right here." It's perfect. They get all the gold, all the treasure, all the money. They can leave. They've achieved what they came to achieve. But Danny now has fallen into the part. He cannot leave it.
Yeah.
But you know what I really love? They don't fall out. It's not like, oh, you're losing your mind. No. I'm leaving. Fuck you. They're still the best of friends.
Yeah.
They're still the best of friends. And he's like, okay, well, I'm going to leave, and he says, well, is this a scene where he's like, well, I'm going to marry Roxanne and I'd like you to stay until we're married.
Yeah. And he says that's another one of the signs, isn't it? It's a sign that, there's a woman called Roxanne.
Roxanne. Yeah.
It's that can't be a coincidence. It must be.
Yeah.
Fate.
But they're still friends. And I love that. I love that at no point during this film is there a moment where you feel like that predictable thing that you would insert into a film like this, where they
Yeah,
break friends? That
you
never
expect
happens.
you expect Peachy to turn on him,
Yeah, and they never do.
and he doesn't.
No, not once. And I love that about this movie. I think that's one of my favorite things about this movie, is that it doesn't fall into the obvious trap of doing that.
No, no.
They're brothers in arms till the end, and if they go their separate ways, they go their separate ways under perfectly fine terms.
Yeah.
They've
I mean,
got too much
he's
love
certainly,
and respect for each
he's,
other. They're
he's
angry,
certainly,
but they're not,
yeah, he's certainly pissed off with him, and he can't believe that he's buying into it. It doesn't make sense to
Yeah.
him.
But you feel like that's more concern than anything, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, because he thinks his mate's probably lost the plot a bit. And he has.
Yeah. He has, yeah, 100%. And yeah, so Danny then says, look, you know, I have, you know, to ensure that this kingdom continues to go on forever, I need, you know, an heir, and therefore I need a wife. And he tells his people, I've chosen a wife, Roxanne of wherever the fuck it was, I've already forgotten. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he says, you know, she'll be brought here, attended by members of her family, and I want flowers the whole journey, and you know, the be full of pomp and circumstance, and you know, send messengers to you know, throughout the land, summon all my people here.
Yeah, and they're all horrified.
Well, yeah, they're like, this woman's gonna explode into ash.
Burn this poor woman. And of course, the priest says something, but you know,
he's like, well, you anointed me a god. Like, you can't really argue.
You're going to go against your god. That, you know, you do as I say. This is what I command. This is what you should do.
Yeah.
And of course, the high priest is like, okay.
I feel like at this point, the high priest is like, how can we accidentally cut this man?
Yeah.
Is there any way we can accidentally? But yeah, so it's gonna happen. He's gonna get married, and of course he's asked Danny. He's asked Peachy to stay and for the wedding, and of course Peachy agrees.
And I like
because Peachy comes in and he's like, "Oh, I want to show you the half that I'm going to be taking." He's like, "This is what I'm going to be taking."
Yeah, and he said he's taking the 20 like personal guards sort of thing, so that they can protect them as they go through the kind of pass sort of thing.
Yeah, well, it's Peachy's forces anyway, isn't it? Really, technically.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. And Danny's like, yeah, of course, you know, take whatever you need, sort of thing. And I did like the the bit when he says about, you know, we swore off women. He says it's not a woman. He says it's a wife. He says I'm taking a wife. He says, you know, and he says, and besides, he said the contract's done now. He says, we did it until we were kings. He says, and I am a king. He says, so the contract's over.
Yeah. Billy comes to you know, as Peachy is taking the riches, his spoils. Billy comes to him and he says, "Oh, you know, the god is angry." You know.
Yeah.
He says something about the cows are
well,
drying up, and
he says one of the priests cut open a chicken or something, and it was green.
That's right, and Peachy's like, "Oh, it must have just been they cut the you know, this must be like stomach bile or something. It's not, you know."
Bile, he says they cut. Yeah, it doesn't like. He says, yeah, but he said, but the cows are dry, and you know, the
goats are throwing their young too soon, and stuff like that. Yeah,
too soon, and the wheat's not ripening properly, and stuff.
And it does cut to I forgot to say, actually, as he announces his wedding, it does cut to the ominous statue staring on with that eye.
Yeah, the great massive eye, the statue.
But of course, he's decided he is to be wed, and of course, Roxanne really has no choice. She is going to get. He's a god, so it is her duty to dutifully burst into flames. So of course she arrives via the bridge, and and is then carried to the ceremony.
She's sort of like, you know, she's trancing out. She's
yes.
you know, and the what I presume is her family are like weeping behind her
Yeah,
as they come.
they're like, she's gonna die.
Yeah,
This is the end of our daughter. It's like the greatest honor ever, but we're
yeah.
gonna lose our daughter. So obviously,
But
yes.
she's gonna be burnt to a crisp.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and so yeah, so yeah, as I said, he convinces Peachy to stay. And Peachy says, "All right, fair enough. Just for the wedding, though." Oh, they have that bit with when he calls them savages as well, because he hears like babies getting murdered or something going on.
Yeah, and he said that's why he pleads with them. He says, "Let them come back with me. Leave them, let them with their savagery and their their
Yes,
polo
yeah,
heads and stuff, and let's just go back to civilization."
yeah. But he agrees to stay anyway for the wedding, and of course it is a ceremony of pomp and circumstance. There are rose petals along the entire aisle.
Yeah.
All of the priests are there, presumably against their better judgment, because they're like, well, I guess we have to.
Well, that's what they yeah, that's their life. That's what they're there for. That's that's
Yeah,
what they've always dreamed of is to serve the
even
gods.
though their god is now making questionable decisions, they kind of like, well, I guess
Yeah,
we're going along with this. And as you said, she is like kind of trance-like as she approaches.
yeah,
And
yeah. She's almost having fits, and she's
yeah, he asks for the ring. Which of course Peachy is best man, I guess. He's got the ring.
yeah,
And he says, I secure the second, take Roxanne to be my lawfully wedded wife, and he's got the ring, and she's going to be queen. And he goes. Of course, you get the. I guess it's the mother or someone is like fallen, and she has like a fit on the floor.
yeah.
Almost like she's possessed or it's quite ominous because it keeps cutting to the statue as well. He goes to kiss Roxanne, who then I guess scratches his face in
No,
some way.
She bites.
Or does
his
she
cheek.
bite him? That's right. She bites his
Bites
cheek.
his
Yes.
bit. He says, "Bitch bit me."
Yeah. But of course, the priest sees the blood immediately.
Yep.
He is a man. He's mortal.
Yeah, and the priest puts his hand.
Danny doesn't understand. He's like,
Danny.
what?
And the priest puts his fingers on the blood in the blood.
Yeah.
He just hops it up, shows everybody bleeding.
Yeah.
He's not a man. And as Billy says, not a man or a devil, he bleeds.
Yeah.
He's a man.
Yeah.
Of course, Peachy's immediately like, okay, we
we should leave. Yeah. He's like, for
it
God's sake, let's leave. Yeah.
And I think Danny's like,
He says like we got to brass it out. That's what he says.
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah. He says brass it out. I love that expression. We've got to brass it out. And Danny's he's like, oh no, we can take them out. We can just take them out. And Peachy's like, no, I think we need to have a fight in retreat here. We need to.
Yeah. You don't understand. You're fucked.
Yeah.
It's time to go. There's like
they
1,000 of these people.
They have this great, run from the
Retreat.
city as they're because they've got.
Yeah, well, I guess they try to get ahead of the message, right? Like if we walk really fast, we'll get ahead of the message, ahead of the outrage before it builds.
They got their like 20 men.
Yes, but it's not long before a huge mob forms and starts chasing after them.
Yeah, they're just throwing rocks at them and it's taking its toll. It's taking its toll. Even though they've got guns and they're shooting them, there's just too many.
Well, Danny says we'll
get.
Danny says we'll get the riflemen. We'll come back and we'll slaughter all of them. But of course, as they're retreating, they're just running out of fucking ammo. There's just too many. There's just too many. And of course, again, you do get a little of Danny's ego here, where he's just like refusing to retreat and refusing to,
he's affronted by, he's still in God mode. He still thinks that they shouldn't be doing this. They're going against the God.
And of course, Peachy's doing his best with the retreat. He's like, 10 steps back, fire, 10 steps back, fire.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's
there's just too many.
It's a relatively well real retreat. You know.
Oh yeah, I mean they're fucked, but they
But,
do everything they can sensibly. You know,
yeah.
it's a sensible as sensible a retreat as they can do given the circumstances.
And they turn to
Um,
Billy and say, "Look, take the mules. You get off. You
yeah,
make a run for it. You get off." And Billy says, "Gurkha, not cavalry. We're foot
yeah,
soldiers."
uh-huh,
He says, "I and he takes his kukri out and he's like, nope." He says, "I'm wishing you the best of lucks." And he
yeah.
shouts the battle cry and he goes at them and they
He's like,
yeah
look,
they,
I'm gonna run into this mob and get horribly murdered. Whatever you do, don't just stand here aghast for the next 5 minutes. Actually leave.
yeah. Poor Billy gets ripped apart.
Yeah, and they just stand on and watch instead of retreating.
Yeah. Well, by the time I mean, it's already too late. They're already completely surrounded. They've got
They are pretty much surrounded by them.
they couldn't really
yeah.
make it. So
No.
and I love it. Danny turns to him and he says, "Peachy, I am heartily ashamed of getting you killed."
Yes. He's like, please forgive me. Yeah.
Yeah, he says, "Going home rich like you deserve on account of me being so bleeding eye and Mike." He says, "Can you ever forgive me?" And I love
Oh yeah, and
Peachy
of
just
course
smiling.
you see the chest fall down the hill, don't you, with all the riches
Yeah,
and stuff. Yeah.
Peachy's got that smile on his face and he just says, "That I can do, Danny. I free and full without let or hindrance."
Yeah.
And Danny says, "Well, everything's all right then."
Yeah. And then they've accepted their fate and it's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Still friends.
And of course they're both captured, of course. And Danny is sent across the bridge. And he starts to sing the song as they cut the ropes. The support ropes to the bridge.
Peachy starts singing as well, and they're both singing.
Yeah. And of course, I love that eventually the bridge obviously falls. Danny falls into the chasm, and Peachy finishes the song. He continues with the song anyway.
Yeah.
Which I really love.
And that stunt is amazing.
Oh, incredible! Yeah.
So it's done by Joe Powell,
Mm-hmm.
previously done stunts for Connery before in Bond movies and stuff.
Yeah.
And apparently, so it's I can't remember the exact. It's like I think it's something like a 400-foot drop.
He says 20,000 miles.
Yeah, he does. Yeah,
in his madness. In his madness. Yeah.
In real life, I think it was like a 400-foot drop, but
it's enough. It's far enough.
They built a platform.
Yeah.
Above that, so he's not falling. I think it's 90 feet. I think he fell.
Mm-hmm.
And I think after he done it, John Huston said that's the damnedest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, for an actor, fucking right.
Yeah.
Like for it, not a stunt double, because it looks like it is Connery doing it.
Yeah, it does.
That is brave.
He doubled for for Connery before, so he was used to sort of like looking like Connery.
Yeah.
And yeah, and Connery hates heights. He hated being on that bridge anyway.
Oh, I'll bet he did.
Yeah.
But yeah. So we then cut to. I love the cut to Christopher Plummer's horrified face.
Yeah.
As he's like being told this story by Michael Caine. As of course we come back to the present and we see the heavily injured Peachy telling the story that he fell 20,000 feet or whatever. And
he says Danny fell round and round like a penny whirligig. 20,000 miles, and it took him half an hour before he struck the rocks.
Yeah. And he says, "Do you know what they did to Peachy?" Yeah.
Yeah, he says they crucified him, sir, between two pine trees. And I like it because he puts his hands up to see that, when he takes, you can see when at the beginning when he gives him the drink and he takes the glass between his two hands because his hands don't work anymore.
Yeah.
He's holding it between his, both of his hands. He says, the poor Peachy who never done them any harm. He howled and he screamed, but he didn't die. And one day they came in, and he took him down, and they said it was a miracle that he hadn't died. And they set him down,
they let him go.
And it took a year to come home. And as he says, I love this bit as well. He says, the mountains tried to fall on Peachy, but he was quite safe because Daniel walked before him. And Daniel never let go of Peachy's hand, and Peachy never let go of Daniel's head. And Kipling says head, and that's when he takes out the package. Takes out the package and he puts it down.
And what I love is it looks a lot like the polo bag that they've been seeing throughout the movie.
Yep.
Now, how he got the fucking head, I will never know. I guess he climbed the fuck down
He
there. To
must
get
have
it.
climbed all the way down there. Well, he says it took him a year to get
Yeah,
back.
yeah,
So he must have gone all the way down and found the body.
yeah.
And I love
And of course,
he says I got he says I've, you don't moan. He says I've got business down, in the south is it Kauai Junction or whatever it is.
yeah,
And he says off he goes.
and he leaves the head, of course.
Yeah. Of course,
Yeah.
Kipling then takes it out, and then there it is. There's his
With the
Danny's-
crown still on his head.
Daddy's skull still with the crown. Yeah.
And yeah. I think it ends. Doesn't it end with Christopher Plummer's just a horrified face as he sits back
Yeah.
in his chair? He's like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And that is that is the man who would be king. A fucking wonderful movie. I mean, honestly, you can't go wrong with the cast, but also the score, also the direction,
everything.
the sets, everything.
It's had a Jeffrey as Billy Fish.
Mm-hmm.
The guy who was the high priest was a night watchman for a shepherd night watchman. He was 100 apparently.
Really? Yeah, he looks 100. He does look it.
Yeah, and apparently when he finished his scenes, he'd go home. He'd go home and do his job. And they were like, no, you don't need to do your job anymore. You've got this one for now. That's been taken care of. You're fine. You can go and get some sleep. It's fine.
You're 100. Stop.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what a wonderful movie. Really, really terrific.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's a classic, boys' own adventure story. It's that. And sure, you can say, but it's got colonialism and all that sort of thing. Of course it has. That's when it's set. That's what.
Oh, I see. It's set in the 1880s. Yeah.
Yeah, it has the attitudes of the British in the 1880s. So of course they're gonna.
It's a depiction of the period. That's expected. Yeah.
And it's a wonderfully done depiction of that time. I think there's only one part which off the hand I don't remember. There's one thing that Kane says at one point. It's like, oh, that's a modern expression.
A little too modern. Yeah.
I forget what the expression what he uses was, but there's one expression he uses that's a little out of place. But other than that, I think it's perfect.
Yeah.
It's a stunning movie, and I think one of their best and one of Huston's best as well. It's
I agree.
All round, brilliant movie, and Kane and Connery both said that it's probably their finest performances that they ever did.
Well, they got to hang out with their best mates and do good work. So yeah. In any case, we will be back next week reviewing new movies. But until then, stay safe, take care, and we will catch you next time.